things felt a bit rushed this week, and, well, that has been a recurring problem with Toei shows for a couple years now, but it's usually been a contributor to why they screw things up. They don't spend enough time on important details or important characters as opposed to the given fight of the episode. They usually to be a lot better at this, but around the time of Gaim, they started to shift faster. Now, I don't blame Gaim or Drive for this, but they're the shows that kind of made it popular because their storytellers, Gen Urobuchi and Riku Sanjo respectively, were able to weave it into the ongoing narrative a bit better, so the things brought up in an episode were followed up on, and the plot points justified better after their introduction. Now, this factors really into both episodes as Zuoger 37, excuse me, is finally is part of a two-parter on the introduction of Bud to the team as Zuo Bird, which is a color palette swap of Zuo Eagle, which, okay, that works since we've already established with Yamato's initial Zoom-on powers that his Zuo Eagle form is based on him absorbing the Zoom-in power of Bud, so it makes sense for him to have the same physical aesthetic, just in different colors. In Bud's case, it's orange with gold outlines and the underlying visor and decal on his chest being a kind of navy blue. I think that's usually a dark blue and orange are usually complementary colors, so that works for me as opposed to it being black. And yeah, I kind of like the overall aesthetic, especially since some other things are palette swap, like the bird beak part of the face instead of being gold is silver. I overall like the suit. It's just that Bud's introduction as a Zuoger is pretty much an afterthought around the that bookends the actual extended fights with the forgetting the faction name. Well, yeah, the Monster of the Week, who has, I assume, a cloning ability. I mean, that's kind of the obvious bit, as it's a pair of identical brothers that are specializing in tandem attacks that, when separated, are actually weak enough for the Zuoger to hold off in their smaller groups, but are overwhelmed together. But in each encounter, they kill one and the other survives, only for another to pop out of the woodwork. And I assume that means he has some type of cloning ability, and working in tandem with his clones is where he has his power. And since none of them have seen him use that cloning ability yet, they don't know what's happening. So it's, once again, continuing my praise of this show in never showing the protagonists as falling for the traps by being stupid. They're legitimately outwitted, and they usually need to use their wits, intelligence, and personal skills to overcome them. And since they don't know about this ability, it understands why while they're still winning each encounter, they're struggling in the greater conflict against this entity. So it definitely works for me in the main plots, but it's weaker than it should be because it's part of Bud's proper introduction to the team, and getting back to the lore surrounding him on why he left the zoo world, why he trapped everyone there, why he's been this dick about going back, or the Zoogers going back, and from the small bits we get of him, since Larry's back, and Larry kind of facilitates a bit of this exposition, something happened. He's not a total dick, he's just very angry and insistent on the isolation of the two groups, which hopefully we'll be getting next week. The preview information says we're getting it, so I'm actually looking forward to having this finally all explained 38 episodes after the show started, and like 20 episodes since it was last addressed. I mean, yeah, I liked Misao's arc, I liked Bangray's arc, but this is kind of this core story arc of the show that's kind of gotten forgotten for quite some time. I'm glad they're getting back to it, but it feels like they should have addressed it a bit more before this instead of just in passing. Other relevant things to the episode is the octopus cube animal, which docks with Zuo King to become Zuo King Octopus, and another 4-point combination, but it's the size of the normal cube animal and not the support animal. So I'm wondering if there could be a 5-point combination with Zuo King wielding another animal, one of the other weapon animal cubes, but it's kind of specific to that combination since Zuo Wild has a backpack. Tosai Zero doesn't have the proper docking mechanism, so it's kind of specific, which is kind of sad because, they even point this out in the episode. It's a cube animal that appears after they've obtained the final combination mech, and there's no way to combine it with the rest of them. They're pretty much lampshading how late in the game that cube animal is coming. I guess it's so that they're not doing... They added this because they're not exactly doing Zuo Condor, who premiered in the movie, at least to our knowledge yet. It might still show up, but it'd be odd to introduce a new cube animal for this kind of thing and not have the movie exclusive. As the last few years, the movie exclusive mech has been back used later in the show in some type of combination. They did it with the frog-based machine in Go Busters. They did it with Spinodio, Kyoryuger. They brought back up the Galaxy Line train that were all based on beasts in the Tokyuger versus Kyoryuger team-up movie, so while it didn't make an appearance in the main show, it did appear later in their movie as canon. So Ninja, I think, breaks this trend with their dinosaur thing, but I stopped caring about Ninja by the point they would usually be doing this. And to back up a bit, Gokaiger had called up the Very Balloon in the last stages of the conflict with Zangiak, and I'm not sure. Yeah, Gokaiger kind of. No, it goes back to Shinkenger actually with the Killer U Origami, which premiered in the movie. Yeah, this goes back a while, and it's I would have expected them to do something with that, but I guess they're not, to our knowledge. Trying to think of anything else to say on this. I admit I like how Bud just swoops into things after showing that he's around and observing the others. I think Larry had something to do with that since Larry contacts them to talk to them about finding Zuo Octopus, that he might have gotten Bud to want to observe them and see if he should actually talk to them about everything that's going on, which would definitely permit him to be around to help Yamato when he's isolated and injured by this monster. And which leads into his premiere as Zuo Bird by him wishing on the King's symbol. I forget the proper name of the Zuo changers again because people keep translating it different ways. But yeah, I really like it as he's begging this thing for the power to help him, and it shows the underlying motivation that it's not out of what's the phrase? Cruelty that he's kept this separate from everyone else, but how jaded he is. So I'm looking forward to finally getting full addressment of his character there, but with it being an afterthought, I thought they could have gotten into some of it more and then started the exposition on his backstory and then had it tie into the major events a bit more to have it a bit more of a dramatic impact. And this ties into Exide as well, as this week we get exposition on why Kagami's kind of, well, a dick. And it's because of what I believed earlier in the show, in that he had a loved one die due to the bugsters, and it got turned into graphite. The relevant one, as is revealed, is that died was his girlfriend Saki. But I don't like the presentation of this, as it's pretty much just two short flashback scenes. The first of Kagami being a dick to Saki, in that he's prioritizing his studies over actually spending any time with her, which is just like, it seems like it's not really establishing they're having a loving relationship like, say, Ren and his girlfriend in Ryuki, which was a lot better handled in how they explored that connection and why it motivated him into the Rider War. Whereas here it's just two scenes. The first of him being a dick, and then the second is him finding out about Saki's gaming disease illness just as she's fading away and dying for Graphite to become, quote-unquote, a real boy. And I think had they spent more time on that, it would have more explained why he acts the way he does, in that the emotional detachment is facilitated from that loss, and how he doesn't want to hurt himself and feel that kind of pain again. And that would totally work if they gave more time to it, because once again, as has been the problem since Ghost, is that they have two fight scenes in the episode, and because they stuff an A-plot over this important character aspect of the show into a B-plot, they don't. Well, they tie it into the main plot, as the monster of the week and the victim of the week have the exact same arc going for them as Kagami and his girlfriend did. It doesn't resonate properly, and that's kind of a pun, since this week was the premiere of Dore Mi Fa Beat Brave, but it doesn't resonate properly because they don't spend enough time on it. They spend more time with the victim, and they're paralleling situation to Kagami's, when that should be flipped, or that victim shouldn't show up until the episode where they're exploring Taiga's whole backstory with now I'm forgetting the villain's name. I am terrible with names. His whole backstory with Graphite. They should have addressed the emotional character stuff with Kagami as the focus, while they're trying to recover the Dore Mi Fa Beat shots, and, kind of getting into his head on why he sucks at rhythm games, but will be the one to then use the rhythm game themed ga shots as his level 3 power-up. And leave this girl that is being used by Graphite for creating these hybrid bugsters, because, as is revealed, Graphite used the exact same person twice, first for the Gekitotsu robots fused bugster, and then again for the Dore Mi Fa Beat Gashot fused bugster. And had they used this girl 4 times, for all of these Bugster Gashot hybrid Bugsters, that would have given more time to both setting up the main character stuff and debuting these things. As it is right now, it's too crowded, and because it's too crowded, it compressed and suffocated this important character development, character expansionary aspect of the show in, like I said, explaining why Kagami is a bit of a standoffish dick. Now, this wasn't a problem last week, because despite everything going on, it was still focused around Emu and Dan trying to push the other 4 gaming writers to the next level, and I mean literally with getting the level 3 Gashot for their game. And while, yeah, that was rushed, it still gave enough time for all of the important points. Well, as here, they're introduced, but they feel more like they're hand-waving something important. Like, in comparison, y'all know by now I love O's, and one of the more important aspects of the show is Eiji's emotional trauma from losing the girl he befriended in a war zone. And while they gave echoes to this point before they actually properly addressed it around episode 11 and 12, when they did address it, while the actual scenes in the flashback scenes of the girl dying were short, they tied deeply into the arc episode and an exploration of Eiji's character in how he's motivated to not have people die in front of him ever again. So again, they're using the short scenes in a more important way versus, 2 scenes that aren't even a minute long each, that are supposed to invoke that same level of empathy, and it's not connecting as such, as there's little exploration of the relationship between the person that died and the person that is a main character. And since they're building the entire conflict between Brave and Kagami and Graphite, so they're like 3-way animosity, it's weaker than it should be because of that lack of time to what is the central conflict between the 3 of them, and that specific instance 5 years ago that is keeping the group of writers separated. Now, the way to mediate this is to more address it during Taiga's part of this backstory, because, yeah, he's the one who failed at defeating Graphite and thus allowed him full manifestation, which killed Saki. But that is why, again, I think they should have delayed this, aside from addressing the depth so much, and, this patient, which is paralleling the 3's entire relationship, till later, as then you get the one character fully sorted, then you have the underlying animosity between these other 2, which has already been established, that you still have plenty of time to go back and explore. But you're doing too much. This was Ghost's problem. This was a bit of the problem with Drive, in that we didn't know how a lot of this tied together until retrospect. This, again, may be happening with Exide, but Exide is suffering from the same problem of being rushed. They're like hitting us with so much information, and so much of it is important, and you would think that they would pace this out better. And people have had problems with the two episode arcs for a story, since, yeah, they were getting a bit old because they didn't have enough stuff to fill an arc episode. But the paralleling problem is that if you stuff it all into one episode, it's suffocating. And this is going to this may end up causing XI to suffer many of the same problems with Ghost, in that Ghost had little to no story in its latter half. They just kept recycling and recycling and recycling the same points that they had rushed past before, and that repetition without any actual progress is one of the things that killed Ghost in its latter half. Telemarketer. And yes, that is my ringtone. I lost my train of thought. So yeah, Dore Mifa beat Gashot. Brave is terrible with it, and then he's awesome at it. And this is another part of that rush thing, in that the only justification they give for him being good with it after he actually managed to level up and equip it is that he understands the rhythm of a heartbeat, and that's what he's going with to actually be able to succeed with the Gashot system of enhancing attacks by being in beat and rhythm with it. And it kind of works by him supposedly being a genius surgeon, because you gotta know how your patient's vitality to make sure you're not killing them. But it seems like it's a weak justification for someone who before this was shown to have no rhythm and no inclination for that kind of game, as Asuna was lampshading a couple times. And the episode shows it itself, where that's when the Bugster uses its powers to put them in kind of a rhythm game mini game. He gets 0% and is heavily damaged by the resultant penalty attack, whereas Emu is good at all types of games and got a perfect on it. So I think it would have been a better way to address this, in that expanding on his relationship with Saki, that she actually liked rhythm games and he didn't actually understand her preference for them. And keep in mind, this is Japan, where they still have arcades and DVR machines are very, very, very popular. So, it might have been better if they were giving more attention to this underlying relationship, in that after she died, he actually tried to keep her memory of her alive by she dragged him to so many of them that he kind of had a potential awareness of them and tried them out after she died, and it might have been part of keeping the memory of her alive. I mean, all he has right now is a picture he looks at angrily, and that's not a good basis for your motivation in getting revenge for your girlfriend's death, as you're not keeping the memory of her alive through anything more than rage. You're not showing yourself as properly remembering her. You're only remembering the bad times. And yeah, her killer is still out there, but you can't just be motivated on that rage. Again, in Ryuki, Ren wasn't. He was motivated by the need to get her back through the wish to, since again, she wasn't dead. Ren's girlfriend wasn't dead in Ryuki, so it's kind of understanding why he wouldn't be full on Avenger, but he got pretty close a couple times. And oh god, I'm defending Ryuki. Oh, like I said with Ryuki, Ren was not the problem in Ryuki. Ren's arc was the good part of Ryuki. But it's again showing the contrast between then, when they gave the time for these points, and now when it's rushed past. And now this again can be mediated if they go back with this actor they got for the show to play Saki, and they address the relationship a bit more than just this, she died from this illness without him really knowing she was sick. But the only lasting part of it, of their relationship, is that he didn't seem interested in sweets in the flashback and seemed to kind of dislike them, whereas now he, whatever they're put in front of him, he will eat them no matter what they are. And, that's kind of a shallow way to remember the girlfriend that you loved, in comparison to, doing something more drastic, getting involved in something you weren't before simply because they enjoyed it themselves. And I feel that would have been a better way to tie in the power-up for him, and that it's somehow tied to her and her memory, to also parallel how this girl kept being used for the hybrid bugsters. Again, like I said, you wouldn't be fully addressing that one point if you moved it to Taiga's episode and used this same person to spawn all 4 of the hybrid bugsters. You wouldn't be addressing this until later in the arc, but you would be seeing how it influenced things even that far back. I don't know how they're going to address Taiga's. Taiga's power-up is apparently coming last, as next we're reading the power-up for Laser in actually giving him limbs. And arguably what is supposed to be the best rider weapon we've seen thus far. And that's pretty much all I got for this week. It's a bit disappointing, as they weren't taking what they had and using it to their full potential, and unfortunately that happens more and more lately with these kinds of shows. And I'm not exactly trying to be cynical about it, but I'm hoping they don't go into steep decline, because I've liked these shows thus far, and I don't want to see them get bad again.